Hi everybody, welcome to our inaugural episode of UNLV Research Files. I'm Gary Waddell. UNLV's reputation as a thriving research institution continues to grow thanks to the innovative efforts of our research facility and students. This show is about them, who they are, what they do, and how their efforts benefit our community. Tonight we begin with Tom Piota. He is the Interim Vice President for Research and Economic Development. Tom, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for hosting this show for us,
It's
Gary.
my pleasure. That was sort of my first question. This show was your brainchild. What am I doing here? You know, I'm thrilled to be here. It's kind of fun. I'm looking forward to it a lot.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. What a great host to do for the show.
Tell us about the research at UNLV and how it contributes to the school.
Well, you know, we have great researchers at UNLV working on a lot of different things. You know, research is about advancing fundamental knowledge, but research is also about contributing to the economic development of our region also. You know, we want to diversify our economy of Nevada, and UNLV contributing that is an important piece of the research that we do at the university and how that impacts the economy of Nevada also. Whether that's in areas, some of you are going to hear about that tonight, whether those are in areas of health impacts, or whether those are in areas of aerospace, or whether those are in areas of water, or areas of information technology. These are all really important areas to diversify our economy, and UNLV wants to be an important part of that.
You were talking about climate change a few minutes ago, but what are some of the programs that are some of the research that's being done, specific programs?
Right, so some of the specific programs, you know, I'll take one in energy. Energy is real important for our area.
Absolutely.
We have a solar and renewable energy minor at the university, but that's supported by great research programs. We have Professor Bob Beam, who's well known in this area, and he does demonstration and testing of solar technologies, the latest technologies, and we're hoping that companies will come here and help test those technologies, but hopefully, you know, that advances companies that come here and advances the economy of Southern Nevada also. We have top students working in this area too. Our students were second in the nation in the solar decathlon, which was a combination of research and education really, and a real interdisciplinary team too, that brought together architecture and engineering students working with business students. So really highlights kind of where we want to go as an institution and how students need to work in teams to make that successful also.
This research doesn't just stay on campus though. How does it become a benefit to the community and to the country?
Right, so part of the way that it becomes a benefit to the country is faculty develop intellectual property, and we try to take that intellectual property and patent it. And when we develop patents, if those patents get approved, when we have patents, then we look to commercialize those. And that's really taking it to the next stage, and that's where we work with companies. And sometimes if we get those, if we commercialize those, that can generate licensing revenue that comes to the university. It can develop new startup companies also that are great for the community, that have new startup companies that are helping with diversifying the economy also. So the ideas that are generated at the university, that's the way they get translated out into the community in terms of helping with economic development.
There have already been some big successes there, right?
Oh yeah, we certainly have people that are working in those different areas, whether those are working in areas of aerospace related areas, or whether those are people who are working in security technologies also. You're going to hear some from one of our Professor Schillers tonight, who's working in biomedical related areas also.
You just added economic development to your title here at UNLV. How does this research help the economy of UNLV?
Right. So a big part of what we need to be doing as a university inside a growing metropolitan area is aligning our research and education programs with the needs of the region also as we diversify and grow. So the university wants to have an economic development presence that aligns with the state's priority with economic development, also the regional needs also. The state just went through a couple of years ago with establishing new economic development needs. Governor has put great priority on that also, with growing sectors outside of gaming, whether those are in aerospace or renewable energy or information technology. So we need to, as a university, align those closely with those sectors and take the ideas that we're generating here and help support those sectors. Because when companies come to Nevada, many times they're looking to see what's the supporting education system there for them to be successful.
Very important. Exciting times for UNLV. Tom, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We will see you again before these series of programs are over. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Researchers participated recently in a fast-paced presentation event called 21, modeled after an event started in Japan. The event gives researchers a chance to meet and show their work in public. Cheyenne Green has the story.
21 researchers, 21 slides in 21 seconds. A fun new way for UNLV scientists to talk about their work.
UNLV scientists met at the Downtown Project's Learning Village to share their research with the downtown community. From the fashion revolution of the 1920s flapper to diagnostic imaging on a corpse, a variety of topics were discussed.
It's a great event, and it's an opportunity for us to talk about our research projects and how they impact the community, learn about what our colleagues and community can do to kind of improve the quality of life in Las Vegas.
Really excited about this event. I'm a relatively new faculty member at UNLV. I've been here about a year, and this is a great opportunity to see the UNLV faculty and their research.
Oftentimes, professors do research in their office behind a closed door. We don't get the opportunity to present our work in public.
Professors are used to talking in 50-minute blocks, and to get it down to 6 minutes is kind of crazy.
It's a real challenge because we're basically using a very structured template.
It's a fun format. The idea is to get the faculty to talk about their research in a way that's much more accessible to the community and to the public, and to make it very, very fast, so they can only talk about the big picture of the ideas. And then after they talk about the big picture, the community can come up and meet them, and other colleagues can come up and meet them and talk about potential opportunities.
This is the first time that UNLV is hosting this event. It's a great opportunity to showcase a partnership between what the university is doing and bring our work and bring scholarship and research to downtown Las Vegas. And it's modeled after some other universities like the University of Tennessee. They do a similar event. And so we're excited to be a part of this.
The jury is still out, but organizers hope the event will be held again next year.
For UNLV Research Files, I'm China Green.
Joining me now is Jillian Inoue, Associate Dean of Research in the Schools of Nursing and Allied Health. Welcome to the program, Jillian. Thank you for being with us. So, big news. I was reading the article. UNLV ordered a $20.3 million grant from the National Institute of Health. It will support what's called clinical and bench-to-bedside research. Okay, I think I know what that means, but explain it to me.
Okay, it's we call it translational research, meaning that we utilize things, research that have evidence-based to practice in terms of working with people, treating people, and improving the health, hopefully, of the nation and Nevada. So we're very lucky. Dr. Bob Langer was the PI on the grant, and I'm the core director for the training and mentoring core, and we're going to give support to the schools at 7 states and 13 institutions in the Mountain West region. And this will be to improve the infrastructure and grants and research within the 7 states.
So it's also part of getting this, once this research bears fruit, getting that to patients?
Right. Well, we're providing pilot studies, pretty hefty sums of pilot grants to provide people, faculty and staff at the institutions that we service, and these would go towards translational research, meaning we'll fund those people who are doing research that will help patients, not so much the bench sciences, but more the people sciences.
What type of specific programs are involved in this?
The types of grants, or
yeah, I mean, what kind of
institutions?
research is this funding?
Oh, we're looking at funding maybe something related to genomics, as how they improve patients' health. So in a sense it's bench, but it's related to people. We're looking at exercise and how it improves people's quality of life, or prevention of diabetes, cardiovascular diseases. And we have several other types of projects that throughout the institutions and through different disciplines. So it's not just medicine, it's nursing, physical therapy, health physics, and so forth.
You're also, first guest was you're wearing one of the fit bands. Is that part of the program?
Right. Well, we haven't funded anybody doing this, but I'm going to be doing some research with someone in allied health sciences that are looking at people's exercise habits because it's so difficult for them to measure their own exercise. This is a natural,
an easy way to do it. And a high-tech way, which so many of us like these days. Is sort of the emphasis on wellness, or is it both?
It's both. We have some disease-related projects, and we're also looking at wellness, prevention, and maintenance.
I saw, University of Alaska, a number of other universities. This is a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it is. Each state has their own different diseases that are predominant. Like Nevada, cardiovascular and cancer is very high. Alaska, it's accidents. New Mexico may be diabetes and so forth. So what we're trying to do is target those disease-specific conditions that are most prevalent and have our conferences where we meet with all the pilots and their mentors and discuss and present those issues.
So it's issues Alaska might not see, but they might have ideas to help us, or vice versa.
Right.
How you meet off? Are you going to meet often, or are you going to just exchange research? Or
we meet once a year. We just started in September, so we haven't had our annual meeting. But we're also meeting. We have 3 cores. We have a administration core, a biostatistician core, we have the training and mentoring core, and we have a pilot grant core. So each of the cores meet separately, and we meet together twice a month for discussions on where we are and what we're going to do next. And then we have the yearly.
Lest we make people think this is all that you're doing over there, there's a lot of other research going on, right?
Yes. In my schools of allied health sciences and nursing, we're doing a lot in terms of health promotion and prevention. So there's lots of exercise studies. We have people in kinesiology doing studies. We have nursing people doing dance as an exercise for cardiovascular. We have sleep studies.
How can you sleep with all that exercise?
Actually sleep better with exercise.
Oh, okay. Jillian, thank you very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
Appreciate it.
And we'll probably see you again.
Okay, thank
Thanks. We will now meet a young researcher who's making a difference at UNLV. Gary Clogger is a biochemist with a brand new lab on campus. Gary Larson brings us his story.
Biochemistry professor Gary Clogger is on a quest to discover how cells work and what happens when things go wrong.
So we actually are trying to dissect it and take it apart and figure out what each part is doing and how those integrate to actually create this final thing that works so flawlessly and precisely. That's effectively what we do. It's just at a molecular level.
Understanding how cells work and how each part contributes to the whole is essential for figuring out how to fix a cell when something goes wrong. Take cancer cells, for example. Not so many years ago, pharmaceutical companies created toxins to kill rapidly dividing cancer cells.
Nowadays, it's very, very different. What they really want to do is hone in on the precise reason why these cells are having trouble, if it's cancer, why they're growing out of control. If it's a problem with the immune system, why is our immune system attacking our cells when it shouldn't be?
Right now we're getting preliminary data, making some mutants of some ubiquitin proteins and looking at phenotypes from those. If we get interesting results, then you start writing it up. So the fall will hopefully be writing manuscripts and submitting some research grants.
We recruited last year Wei Zong and Hong Sun, who are already established biomedical researchers. And so I have no doubt that they're going to be producing amazing things immediately. And then, we're starting to build a reputation now so that people are going to want to come here to study.
Clogger says every biomedical researcher hopes to find something extraordinarily exciting that explains how life works. Sometimes this happens, but a lot of times it doesn't, and that's okay with Clogger.
Scientists ultimately just want to get it right. We want to know how the world works. The ultimate goal is the truth. So all egos aside, ultimately we care more about getting it right than being, say, the first person to get it right, but ultimately we just really want to make sure that we do get it right.
Thank you, Gary. Very interesting stuff. Joining me now is Bob Schill, a professor in electrical and computing engineering. I understand you are welcome. Thank you for being with us. I understand you're experimenting with pulse power.
Yes.
Okay, I know AC/DC. I know AC and I know DC, but what's pulse power?
Pulse power is basically the science and technology of being able to, or to enable, a finite amount of energy to be expended in a short period of time. And this short period of time could be a defined period of time, or it could be a designed period of time at a particular point in space, a particular point in time.
Okay, you're going to have to put that in other words for me.
The concept of pulse power can be related to baking a cake.
Okay.
If you follow the directions properly on a cake, where you would have it in the oven at a particular temperature, the cake will come out after it performs this chemical reaction into a form of a nice formed cake. Mm-hmm. If, on the other hand, you decided to turn the oven up maybe about 3 times the temperature, but use the same amount of energy, which means a shorter period of time, you will get a different outcome. Your cake will tend to be burnt on the edges and probably not done in the center. That's the whole purpose, is getting a different outcome.
Oh.
We believe in our center, and that's the premise of the center itself, the emission center, is that one has the potential to use pulse power to selectively influence, to manipulate, to sculpt particular types of chemical processes, or just processes and mechanisms. And therefore we have the ability to see things that one would normally not be able to see. Wow.
Sounds interesting. Along with your associate, Mark Popak, you created a special type of sensor called the EM dot. I was reading about that. And this sounds exciting.
Back in about 2004 or 2005, actually it goes back to about 2002, we brought the Nevada Shocker to the university. We were studying, or proposed to study, flashover in plastics, which basically is lightning in a box over a surface of plastic. It should be a dielectric, so it shouldn't break down. And our particular machine generates about 1 million volts and about between 10,000 to 100,000 amps, but in a very short period of time, 15 nanoseconds, which is somewhere around the order of a billionth of a second. The problem that we've had was that with these high voltages and currents, we were trying to study the evolution of arc being generated or waves being propagated. Our electrodes were about 9 inches in diameter, and waves propagated at the speed of light, and hence they're moving, for our particular experiment, again about a billionth of a second. And we needed to be able to see this particular phenomena. Okay. This is where the dot came into play. Things on the market just didn't satisfy our particular design. They were too big, too clumsy. They could have been even too bulky to even implement into our machine. So somewhere within the 2004-2005, Mark and I developed and conceived the concept of the E&M dot. It has a special property that it measures both the electric field and magnetic field simultaneously at one point in space, and is small and compact. So therefore, one can place it inside our machine. Consequently, we had about 8 to 10 of those dots located in the machine itself. In about 2005, once we realized that the dot has some great potential, we placed a patent disclosure on it to the university. We disclosed the property to the university, and they filed a provisional patent and a full patent, which was eventually, about 2009, I believe, granted to us.
And let me stop you real quick. Where does this go out in the real world?
Well, that's coming.
Okay.
At this particular point, we've been only making relative measurements. We had no way of calibrating it. Mm-hmm. So a student came on board at about 2009, Ahmad Algray, and within the next 2 years, between he and I, we were able to develop a nice calibration scheme, which we believe is going to be a new standard for the industry. It was in about 2012 that people from North Carolina, actually it's Climate Technology Incorporated, came to the university. We were interested in one, their switch for a different product, and we talked about some of our things and we showed them the labs. And as they walked through the lab, they saw the dot and they said, that looks very interesting. We might have an interest in that. Within about a year later, they licensed the dot from the university as of last May, and we are in the process of working with them to commercialize the dot.
Very good, Bob. We could go on a long time about all of this, but we're out of time. Thank you. Please come back on other shows and we'll talk more about it. It's very interesting stuff. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Help support the Breast Cancer Patient Education Act, a bill that will help make sure women facing a mastectomy are told all their options about breast reconstruction. Visit broaddayusa.org for more information.
We had been called up for the first time. Wildfires were getting close to homes. At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is.
Be there for your community at NationalGuard.com.
Welcome back. Here now with me is Professor Martin Schiller from the School of Life Sciences. Marty, you're a microbiologist. You specialize in what's called bioinformatic tools. What is a bioinformatic tool?
Oh, good question.
I thought so.
So, you know, everyone's body is made up of about 60 trillion cells, which is a lot of cells. And each cell has so much going on inside it with so many molecules that it's more complicated than everything you can see in Las Vegas. And so you got to figure out how all this works together and then what can go wrong, right? Because if you have an accident on the I-15, something's going wrong. The same thing happens in a cell and it results in disease. So we need to build like very sophisticated computational systems to help us analyze data and try to make sense of what's going on in the cell. So that's what bioinformatics is, and we build tools that are oriented along this line, and sometimes they end up applied where they can have, you know, a meaning in the real world. And if you pull up the slide that I provided, is a good example. This is a tool we just released called GoMap, and it's interesting with regard to HIV. So it turns out when people get infected with HIV, the virus is super smart and it mutates to avoid the drugs you give it. So then you end up with a resistant strain and you get a relapse of the infection and you can't get rid of it. And so what we've built in our lab is we've taken all of these mutations and examined 40,000 sequences around the world and then looked at how these mutations distribute in the world. So there are 26 approved drugs, but we can say based on a particular mutational profile that you should not be using this drug in this country. And so this is just getting going, and that map shows that different drugs would have different resistant profiles depending upon what country you're located in.
Wow. And this all harkens back to DNA and turning on and off portions of what's going on in the body, right?
Yeah, well, this is, you know, the virus, when it takes over, it's like infecting a program. And the virus uses thousands of different genes in your body to help serve its purpose of multiplying and taking over.
So where does this go with helping people who are HIV positive?
Well, so what we're hoping the way this will influence it is if you're a doctor in Kenya, let's say, okay, and you have a battery of drugs that you can give a patient, if you look and basically just regionally look at our maps, you can say, well, these 10 drugs have high resistance in this country. So if I give this to the patient, it's likely the patient's already resistant, so I'm treating them with nothing.
Something that doesn't work.
Yeah, so they can go to our maps and say, these drugs, there's never been a known case of resistance to these drugs in this country, so this is probably a good place to start in treating a patient.
There's also the targeting and removing portions of DNA to try to turn things off?
Yeah, well, our lab, and I have to give kudos to a postdoc in my lab, Christy Strong, and an undergraduate, Horacio Guerrera, kind of just started as a discussion in the lab, but what we did is we took an existing technology called TALENs, and we applied it to HIV. So HIV, like other retroviruses, when they infect people, they actually become part of you. They insert their DNA and become part of your DNA. Mm-hmm. And that's called latency. The virus sits there and it's in your DNA. So even if you treat the virus to make the symptoms go away, you didn't get rid of the virus, it's still there. And so it can relapse at a later point in time. So you're faced with this problem, not just for HIV, but for bird flu, hepatitis, and lots of viral infections, where the virus becomes part of you. And if you look at a human genome, you can see half the genome is relics of old viral infections. Right? We're mostly made up of virus, it seems. So then what we've engineered are specific proteins that can go into the DNA and damage it so that we're inactivating the latent copy of the virus. And when we think about a future cure for HIV, now we can do a pretty good job with the symptoms. But in order to get a cure, you need to damage the genomic virus. And we've actually shown that this now works in cell culture, where we basically take cells infected with HIV, put our proteins in, and we're damaging the genome now.
Marty, this is exciting stuff.
Yeah, I'm thrilled about that.
Thank you very much. Yeah. We appreciate you being here. Thanks for being on this first show. We look forward to talking with you again. That is going to do it for tonight. Be sure to join us again for our next episode of UNLV's Research Files. Good night, everybody.